Now, Ray Gosling guides us on a great little railway journey to the land beyond the mountains.
This is a journey to a strange place in the extreme north of Portugal. So strange it's barely known to the Portuguese themselves. The journey began in the obvious place, Oporto, second city of Portugal of 500,000 people on the Atlantic shore. Remember, Portugal is an Atlantic, not a Mediterranean country. And the Portuguese so proud they were the first Europeans to discover Bermuda, Labrador and Brazil, Formosa and Japan. They've always been leaving their country in droves, most recently to work in France and Germany. And come down the main street in Oporto to the railway station. There every day a blind girl sings the same verses of the same sad song. Emigrants of Portugal, she warns, do you really think you can achieve your dreams in some El Dorado overseas? It is a melancholy message.
Well, what do you think about the grapes, Peter? Do you think
And immigrants have come to Portugal, the British mainly, who created the port wine trade. The British have their own club, and once a week they meet round this table to talk. The old man is John Smithies, one of the most revered of the great British noses in the trade today.
Yes, I can't hear you. Sorry? He's very good.
And he'll be going up country tomorrow into the Portuguese interior. And if you're going up country, the easy way is on the train, from São Bento station in the heart of downtown Oporto, with a ceiling high as a cathedral. It's covered in ceramic panels that illustrate the folklore of typical villages the railway serves, beasts of burden and peasants in costume. And the building of the railway. They're very proud. For a little country like Scotland, the Portuguese did all the engineering themselves. The trains are quite fast. Both classes out of Oporto pretty comfortable. They need to be. The main line inland is 5 hours long. Single track, but journeys ran to time, nationalised of course, subsidised, yes. They have strikes sometimes, The trains are very well used and the lavatories clean with soft paper and running water. But it's a bit boring to begin with. Until about 2 hours up country you turn a bend and there it is. The great River Douro. This is the only place in the world where are found the special conditions for a vine to thrive that makes port wine. The River Douro, River of Gold. And perched up are the rich houses, here and there, looking like castles, the big estate farms. A bunch of workers to pick the grapes across the river to catch a train. Extra workers are needed for the harvest, and they come from all over, mostly of farming families themselves. These are families who own a small holding of cabbages and potatoes, and some wine they'll grow themselves, but it'll be ordinary wine. They come to farms inside the port wine area, contracted in for the fortnight to harvest at a big-name vineyard. It takes these workers 2 train journeys to get from their small village to the big farm, which lies deep in the heart of the Douro Valley. And here they'll work for the next fortnight for an English owner. An hour and a half on the train and they're still banging the drum. It may seem odd, but it's a tradition to bang the drum, to clap, to announce we have arrived. Of course they get paid by the farmer. Never enough, they say. 100% more they want. But then on their own family farms, they'd not be paid at all. It'll be a lump sum they'll take back from the English owner. And they're fed free. Anyway, they keep working. And they sing melancholy songs about love and love lost, money and how easy come, easy go it all is. There is a foreman elected by popularity, and some pickers only come because they like him. Michael isn't a farmer. Back in their village, Michael works on a hydroelectric dam. And if the loads look heavy in the basket, they are, and the ground difficult to walk on. It's the mystery that from such strange, flinty soil comes forth such goodness. From this stony ground can be squeezed so rich a wine. They do this in the evening for extra money. Same boys and girls who picked in the fields all day. They link arms and silently, seriously for 2 hours to the sound of the drum, almost hypnotically. It's better by bare feet than machinery, apparently. And it makes port that'll be drunk when? In 5, 10, 20 years' time? If it's very good, 100 years' time. There is a timelessness about port. When you think these treaders' parents' feet did it, same rhythm, did this, and their grandfathers' fathers, and so on, and so on, and so on. Once it's swilling around a bit and enough juice has come to the top, a signal is given and you let yourself go. Dance in the tank, and the tune they dance to is Who Made Your Boots? They go on till midnight when the sexes separate. Even husbands and wives won't sleep together during the vintage fortnight. And you still have to be up to get to the fields for 7 o'clock in the morning. It's not just any old grapes. It's a unique gift of God to this valley, as the modern poet of the region puts it.
Paraíso da aguarela forte das vinhas, que entram em ondas verdes pelos olhos.
Paradise of the strong watercolour of the vineyards, entering the eye like green waves.
Vinhas, sei lá, são a própria vida desta gente.
Vineyards that stand within these people's life.
Então o Douro é Douro, ouro no sol que põe tudo em labaredas, os cachos.
Golden paradise of the vintage, then the Douro River is made of gold. Meanwhile, the distinguished nose from England, John Smithies, is making his tour of inspection. Up a particularly rough side valley, where there are no roads, where the little narrow branch train really is the only way. Smithies lives in Devon now. He's retired, but still comes back for the vintage. He is the Smithies of Cockburn Smithies, son of his father who did all this before railways on horseback. Today, he's visiting on behalf of the firm a small farmer he's known for donkey's years, who's also the village padre. It'll be a particularly emotional meeting because they're family friends. John's been recently ill, and the padre's sister died since they last met. The padre's in charge of the farm because he's the eldest. 2 brothers do most of the work, fairly typical of the port wine region, where they're mostly small family farms.
Tem passado bem? Tem passado bem? É? Eu tenho estado assim um bocado mal de garganta. Bem, bem.
They both should have retired properly by now, but they haven't, and they won't. There was a time when the Padre would roar away from the station with Smithies on the back of his Royal Enfield motorbike. John Smithies' firm is now part of a great multinational. But on a human level, out here, it's much the same. Other small farmers also bring their grapes to the Padres to be crushed into wine. It's been a good crop this year, high sugar content in the grape. You can get an idea of that by tasting them. But of course they use instruments. More meticulous it's becoming as Portugal wants to enter the common market. Sign the ledger, write in the figures. Things like sugar content will affect the payment the Padre gets. And temperature's important. Only when it's just right can the pure grape brandy be added that fortifies the wine to make it port.
Muito bem. Very good. Very good. Muito bom. Agora cuidado.
It's a dickens of a business, and when they get it right, the port will rest in these casks.
É muito bom. É bom. Não tem nada.
They have to be clean, smelling only of wood and the spirit, never detergent. When it comes to port, John Smithies is known around here as the law. His palate is to be respected. And he always takes his false teeth out when it comes to tasting. Like the barrels, his mouth has got to be free from anything artificial.
Acho bom.
Very good.
Excellent. Muito bom, mesmo muito bom.
Maravilhoso. Deixei que os portugueses gostam e bebem pouco.
Mind you, the Padre says about port, the trouble is the Portuguese don't drink enough of it themselves. Oh, I don't know. The British port and lemon in the pub trade's almost disappeared. Britain's now been overtaken by France as the #1 customer. But afterwards, over a glass of the Padre's best, there was no doubt there's still a special relationship between the British and the Portuguese.
Oh, I think so, yes. Very special relationship, perhaps particularly in Madeira, because they've been such a very close and long connection, but I think it goes really right back to the original treaty, the sort of friendship between not the country, not the governments so much as between the people, the real people. It's a feeling of friendship and total equality, I would say. No question about it.
And do you think it'll die out? Do you think you're the last of the breed?
No, I don't think so at all, no. No. The only thing which is dying out are the actual original families, as often happens. There are a number of names, both in English and Portuguese shippers, where the family no longer has any representative of the same name in the firm, so to speak. In Cobens, it so happens that by chance both the Cobens and Smithers more or less departed at the same moment, you might say.
At last, when all the work's done on the big farms, it's time to celebrate. Congratulations to an English owner for having a good crop. And a posy for his wife. Viva, viva the vintage. Viva to the owner. Viva to all of us. Haven't we done well? And off goes that drummer again. Let's have a dance. This farm may belong to an Englishman, but the owner couldn't do it without the people. Same lot, be back next year to gather in another harvest of the River Douro's gold. And rockets announce it's all over. Rockets of dynamite. As the season dies, the people give thanksgiving for another year, another vintage, safely harvested all over the place. The homemade statues are taken out of the church and given an airing. Walked around the village. It's very simple. Everyone joins in.
Maria Concebida sempre Nossa Senhora das Neves.
Com toda a graça e beleza no jardim da formação e na flor de Jericó de Portugal essa flor, glória da nossa terra.
There is a point where the countryside changes, when you leave the green and golden hills of port wine to journey further north. And that part of the journey is ushered in by the sight of a little old steam engine, the last of its kind at work, fussily putting together a ragbag of very mixed rolling stock. Some of them are pretty ancient. Some of these bogey carriages they got for nothing from Germany in 1923 as war reparation debt. First World War, of course. But the engine won't come with us. Steam's for shunting only now. It'll be diesel electric to haul us up the narrow gauge to the land beyond the mountain. There's 4 trains a day go up and 4 come down this province which few Portuguese visit and only a handful of British railway enthusiasts. There's no rush. The little lines are used daily by local people at 20 miles an hour. No first class, no second really. It's all 4th class and hard wooden seats. There are little towns. You can find them on the map, but we don't want to stop there. It's a big province this, 500,000 people, and most still live in the villages. Still very strict about tickets, they'll chuck you off without one. As Manuel, the ticket collector, explained, I think the line is very necessary, indispensable. Obviously it's a bit neglected, and we do need new carriages and improvement. The people here are of very slender means, living on agriculture. They use this line for short trips. Some bus fares are now cheaper, but the narrow lines are the only means of transport to certain areas. Recently people thought it was going to be closed. That was a rumour. But they fought by all possible means. The people went to the authority. They blocked the line in 3 or 4 places by force to prevent it being closed. You can tell when you've arrived in the land beyond the mountains by many signs, and one particular sound. They've invented the wheel. For axle grease. In a field at dusk between 2 villages, a bullfight. The honour of each village at stake. And to think they specially fed that bull all week and all it's done is run away. And for the winner, it wasn't much of a fight, but the winning villagers will go off to celebrate just the same. The drivers of the diesel locomotives play a tune up here to tell the wild world they're coming round the bend, a cantata for diesel electric. narrow gauge line goes almost to the Spanish frontier. From some villages you can see Spain and hear the church bells, but you can't cross. They're both Catholic countries, but Portuguese Catholicism certainly up here is of a more liberal discipline. There's a young priest with a parish on the border who's been on the telly sermonising sociologically, saying that his people must strengthen their antiquity and bring back old customs.
Olha que galo é esse? Isso vai comer com isso. Puta, me dá mais um boi. Assim não segura isso.
This is an old game, and in this village had died out until the padre brought it back again 3 years ago for special occasions. Only the very old could remember it, but Padre thought the young generation should know about their traditions properly, and the youth club all take part, of course.
Yes, vai, tempo. Bala palpar com pau, é? Com bala palpar. É quanto deve dar.
What? That lad's cheating. You're not supposed to do that, and Padre's an absolute stickler for the rules. The priest says, since he reintroduced the game, no one has ever hit the cock. It's almost impossible. But the one who gets it closest, of course, wins the bird for his or her dinner. The priest of this parish is popular, but he's not just interested in games. Life is very basic. Not everyone has electricity even. They may look as if they've got enough food, but the priest campaigns. They don't have a fire brigade or a doctor, and where are the promised metalled roads? Who can trust the promises of politicians? There's a saying, they only want our taxes and our sons for the army. The railway is still a lifeline up here. The greatest success of Padre's campaigning has been to rebuild about half a dozen ovens, like this one, lying derelict for 5 years. They're a tremendous success. It's cheap and simple. No rates, no rent. The corn is local corn, bracken the heat. About the only cost is the salt and labour. They do it in turns.
Ici, tout le monde reste content.
Mais regardez ce porte-monnaie. Voilà.
And baking this morning was Palmyra, who can speak French. She'd worked with her husband for 20 years in France. Now they decided to return to their home village. Everyone has to leave to earn, she said, because there are no factories here, and they earned a lot of money in France. It's a pity. Portugal is such a happy place.
Todo mundo chante, todo mundo. Em France, pessoas chantam.
In France, everyone's so miserable. So you come back home for a laugh. Here it is friendly and pretty and happy, and everyone's singing, even at night.
J'entends les gens chanter, tout le monde content. En France, non.
It's because it's over there. In France, everyone unhappy, perhaps because they've got a lot of money. Much money, it's no good. It's not necessary to have such a lot.
Beaucoup, ça va pas. Pas melhor, pas beaucoup. Et voilà.
Poor but happy. There is a community in the villages in the land beyond the mountains. Sometimes it looks simply antique, no disguising its hard. But stick around for a little time, and you hear of something else going on. It's to do with the most interesting statistic in this parish. There's twice as many donkeys as people. And they've found an extra use for them. Smuggling. So not all the fit and strong have to emigrate. But what is the contraband exactly?
They transaction is of all things.
Whiskey,
Whiskey, Portuguese to Spain,
codfish,
codfish from Spain to, to Portugal, cows, old cows, from old cows from Spain to Portugal, and the new builds from Portugal to Spain. This year ago, potatoes. This year ago, because in Portugal there are not sufficient potatoes from our consumption, apples, and so on, and many fruits from Spain to Portugal. Dope also from Portugal to Spain, or the reverse.
dope,
Also,
drugs.
I think the drugs. Not many times, but I know.
Is it a sin? I mean, do you preach against it?
What a world away from the green and golden river of port. And strange, the Portuguese who discovered so much of the world by sea so many centuries ago have missed this bit of their own country. It's thought a paradise by those who live here. A hard, strange, stony paradise.
Next week at 7:50, the final programme in this great little series, when the literary editor of Punch, Stanley Reynolds, rides the Guayaquil to Quito railway in Ecuador, known locally as the Good and the Quick.